The text came through at 3:47 p.m. on December 28th, right as I was reviewing Q4 projections with my CFO. Marcus, brother, don't come to New Year's Eve. My fiancée is a corporate lawyer at Davis Polk. She can't know about your situation. I stared at the message for a moment. My situation. That's what they were calling it now. Before I could respond, the family group chat exploded. Boom. Marcus is right, honey. This is important for his career. Dad, Amanda's from a very prestigious family. We need to make the right impression. Sister, Jenna, maybe next year when you've figured things out? I watched the messages pile up. 3 dots appeared under Marcus's name again. Marcus, Amanda thinks I come from a family of achievers. Having you there would complicate that narrative. You understand, right? My executive assistant, David, knocked on my glass door. Ms. Chin, the board wants to move up tomorrow's strategy session. They're concerned about the Davis and Polk timeline. I held up one finger. David nodded and stepped back. We're doing this for you too, sweetie. You wouldn't feel comfortable anyway. Amanda's friends are all Ivy League lawyers and investment bankers. Dad, her father is a senior partner at Sullivan & Cromwell. These are serious people. I took a breath and typed 2 words. Me, understood. Marcus, thanks for being cool about this. I'll make it up to you. I set my phone down and looked at David through the glass. He was holding a leather portfolio with our company logo embossed in gold. Meridian Technologies. Tell the board 2 p.m. works, I said. And confirm that Davis & Polk is sending their full M&A team to the January 2nd meeting. Already confirmed, David said. Senior partners, associates, the works. It's their biggest potential client acquisition of the year. I smiled. Perfect. It wasn't always like this. Growing up, I was the family disappointment in training. Marcus was the golden child. Varsity athlete, student government, early acceptance to Princeton. Jenna was the social butterfly who married a dermatologist and joined the country club. And then there was me. The quiet one. The quirky one. The one who spent weekends coding in her room instead of going to parties. Sarah needs to work on her social skills. I'd overheard Mom tell her bridge group when I was 16. She's very internal. Dad was more direct. Your brother is going to run a Fortune 500 company someday. You need to think about realistic goals. When I got into MIT, there was no celebration dinner. Marcus had just made partner track at his consulting firm, and that was the real news. My acceptance letter stayed on the kitchen counter for 3 days before Mom moved it to file it away. Computer science, Dad had said, not quite hiding his disappointment. Well, I suppose someone has to do the tech support. I graduated at 20. Started my first company at 21. It failed spectacularly within 8 months. The family group chat had been brutal. Dad, maybe it's time to think about grad school. Get an MBA. Something practical. Marcus, I can ask around about entry-level positions if you want to get serious about your career. There's no shame in working for an established company, honey. I didn't tell them about the second company. Or the third. The fourth one, Meridian Technologies. I started in my studio apartment with $15,000 of savings and a breakthrough algorithm for supply chain optimization that I'd been developing since sophomore year. I didn't tell them when we got our first client, a mid-sized logistics company willing to try anything to shave costs. I didn't tell them when that client's efficiency improved by 34% in the first quarter. I didn't tell them when Forbes called for an interview. I didn't tell them when we closed our Series A, $12 million. By the time Meridian hit our Series B, $85 million, led by Sequoia Capital, I'd learned something valuable. My family didn't need to know. They'd made it clear what they thought my ceiling was. I didn't owe them updates on how thoroughly I'd shattered it. At Thanksgiving 2 years ago, Marcus brought his new girlfriend Amanda. Harvard Law, corporate M&A practice at Davis & Polk, family money that went back 4 generations. Amanda just made senior associate, Marcus announced proudly. Youngest in her class. That's incredible, Mom gushed. What kind of law? Mergers and acquisitions, Amanda said, flashing a smile full of perfect teeth. We handle major corporate transactions. Tech sector mostly. He turned to me politely. What do you do, Sarah? I work in tech, I said. Oh, fun. Which company? A startup. Supply chain software. I watched her eyes glaze over slightly. That sounds interesting. Marcus squeezed her hand. Sarah's still trying to find her footing. The startup world is tough. Oh, definitely, Amanda agreed. We see it all the time. Most of them fail. He meant it kindly, sympathetically even. But it's great that you're trying. Very brave. I'd nodded and changed the subject. That was 18 months ago. Since then, Meridian had grown to 450 employees across 4 countries. Our valuation hit $2.1 billion after our Series C. Fortune had just named me to their 40 under 40 list. We were in active negotiations to acquire one of our largest competitors. A deal that would make us the dominant force in enterprise supply chain optimization. And Davis Polk was representing the company we were acquiring. I didn't build Meridian to prove anything to my family. I built it because the problem was fascinating and the solution was elegant, and because at 2 a.m. when I finally cracked the core algorithm, I felt more alive than I'd ever felt at any family dinner. But I'd be lying if I said their dismissal didn't fuel something. Have you thought about a real job? Became another 16-hour day. Every Marcus closed another major deal became another client signed. Every time I wasn't invited to something because I wouldn't fit in, became another reason to make sure I'd eventually own the room they thought I didn't belong in. My team didn't know about my family situation. David knew I kept my personal life private. My CTO Rebecca knew I never took calls during board meetings. My general counsel James knew that I'd built this company with something to prove, though he'd never asked what. You're different, Rebecca had said once, after we'd pulled off an impossible product launch in 6 weeks. Most CEOs I've worked with do it for the money or the status. You do it like you're trying to rewrite something. Maybe I am, I'd said. The Davis Polk deal had fallen into our laps in October. TechFlow Solutions, a $800 million company that had dominated the East Coast market for a decade, was struggling. Their technology was outdated. Their leadership was aging out. They wanted to sell while they could still command a premium. We wanted their client list and their market share. Davis Polk represented TechFlow, which meant Amanda Whitmore, senior associate, was on the deal team. I'd seen her name on the initial disclosure documents. My stomach had dropped. Problem? James had asked, noticing my expression. No, I'd said. No problem at all. I didn't tell him that Amanda was about to marry my brother. I didn't tell him that my family had no idea I was the CEO of Meridian Technologies. I didn't tell him that Amanda had looked at me with pity at Thanksgiving and said, most of them fail. I just told him to proceed with the acquisition. I spent New Year's Eve in my apartment with Thai food and a bottle of very expensive champagne that a client had sent. My phone buzzed throughout the night. The family group chat was active. Photos appeared. Marcus and Amanda at some rooftop party in Manhattan. Mom and Dad in cocktail attire. Jenna and her husband with champagne flutes. Such a beautiful evening. Amanda's parents are lovely. Jenna, can't believe Marcus found someone so perfect. Dad, photo with Amanda's father, he just closed a $2 billion merger. Incredible stories. At 11:47 p.m., a private text from Marcus. Marcus, thanks again for understanding about tonight. Amanda's dad was asking about my family. Easier this way. You know how it is. I stared at the message. Easier this way. I typed, hope you're having fun. I didn't add what I was thinking. In 32 hours, your fiancée is going to walk into the biggest meeting of her career and find out exactly who I am. At midnight, I toasted myself in the mirror. Happy New Year, Sarah. Let's make it interesting. The Davis Polk team was scheduled to arrive at 10 a.m. I got to the office at 6. Our headquarters occupied floors 47 to 52 of a glass tower in downtown Seattle. My office was on 52 Corner View, with the city sprawling below and the mountains in the distance. David was already there with coffee. Today's the day, he said. Final negotiations for TechFlow. Their team confirmed? Full roster. 3 senior partners, 5 associates, paralegal support staff. They're bringing the CEO of TechFlow and their board chairman. And the Davis Polk associates? David checked his tablet. Amanda Whitmore is listed as second chair on the transaction. She'll be presenting portions of the due diligence findings. I nodded slowly. Perfect. Rebecca appeared in my doorway. You ready for this? TechFlow's trying to renegotiate the earnout provisions. They can try, I said. Our offer is final. James joined us. I've reviewed everything 3 times. We're airtight. This is the cleanest acquisition I've ever structured. I looked at my team. They'd worked for 6 months on this deal. Late nights, weekend calls, endless revisions. They deserve to see it close. And they deserve to watch me do it. Conference room A, I said. I'll present the opening remarks. Rebecca, you'll handle tech integration. James, you've got the legal framework. David, make sure their team has everything they need. You're personally presenting? Rebecca looked surprised. I usually let my team take the lead in negotiations while I observed. Today I am, I said. At 9:45, David knocked. They're in the lobby. Security is bringing them up. I stood and smoothed my jacket. Navy blue Tom Ford, custom tailored. Hermes scarf. Louboutin heels. I dressed carefully. Not to impress, to remind myself who I'd become. The woman who got excluded from New Year's Eve didn't exist anymore. But the woman who built a $2.1 billion company from a studio apartment? She was about to make quite an entrance. Conference room A was our showcase space. 40-foot marble table. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Meridian's logo etched in glass on the far wall. Screens embedded in the table for presentations. I was already seated at the head of the table when they arrived. David opened the doors. Gentlemen, ladies, welcome to Meridian Technologies. The Davis and Polk team filed in first. 3 senior partners in their 50s and 60s, perfectly tailored suits, leather portfolios. Behind them, the associates. Amanda Whitmore was third in line. She walked in reviewing something on her tablet, not looking up. Professional. Focused. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat chignon. She wore a charcoal theory suit that probably cost $2,000. She still hadn't looked up. The TechFlow CEO Richard Morrison entered next. Silver-haired, distinguished, clearly uncomfortable about selling his life's work. His board chairman followed. David gestured to the seats. Please make yourselves comfortable. Miss Chin will be starting shortly. That's when Amanda looked up. Her eyes scanned the room professionally, cataloging faces, and then landed on me at the head of the table. I watched the recognition hit. It was like watching a system crash in real time. Her tablet slipped. He caught it. Her mouth opened slightly. Sarah, she said. The senior partner next to her, Lawrence Whitfield, frowned. You know Miss Chin? I smiled pleasantly. Hello, Amanda. Please sit. She didn't move. This is. The room had gone very quiet. Lawrence looked between us. Amanda. I'm sorry, she managed. I didn't realize that I was the CEO of Meridian Technologies. I finished gently. It never came up. Her face had gone from pale to bright red. You said you worked at a startup. I do. This one. Rebecca, sitting to my right, glanced at me with barely concealed amusement. James, on my left, maintained a perfect poker face, but I could see the corner of his mouth twitching. Lawrence Whitfield was professional enough to recover. Well, shall we begin? Everyone took their seats. Amanda sank into a chair near the middle of the table, still staring at me. One of the other associates leaned over and whispered something to her. She shook her head, unable to respond. I stood and activated the presentation screen. Thank you all for coming. I'm Sarah Chin, founder and CEO of Meridian Technologies. We've been looking forward to this meeting. My voice was steady. Come. This was my boardroom. My company. My deal. We're here to finalize the acquisition of TechFlow Solutions. Our offer is $840 million, structured as $600 million in cash and $240 million in performance-based earnouts over 3 years. I walked them through the presentation. Market analysis. Integration strategy. Technology roadmap. My team had prepared everything flawlessly. Richard Morrison asked sharp questions. I answered each one directly, specifically, with numbers and projections that his own team had to acknowledge were aggressive but achievable. 40 minutes in, Lawrence Whitfield spoke up. Miss Chin, your projections assume 40% year-over-year growth. That's ambitious. Meridian has averaged 47% year-over-year growth for the past 4 years, I said. We're not projecting. We're being conservative. One of the other Davis and Polk partners, Patricia Huang, nodded approvingly. Your due diligence has been thorough. We appreciate that. We don't waste time, I said. This deal makes sense for both parties. TechFlow gets to retire with a premium. We get immediate East Coast market penetration. It's elegant. Amanda still hadn't spoken. She was staring at her notes, pen frozen over paper. Lawrence gestured to her. Amanda, you wanted to address the IP transfer protocols? She looked up like she'd been electrocuted. Yes. She fumbled with her tablet. Her hands were shaking. Patricia leaned over. The technology transfer schedule, she prompted quietly. Right. Yes. The technology. Amanda's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I need a moment. She stood abruptly and walked out of the conference room. Lawrence's jaw tightened. My apologies. Let's take a brief recess. The room cleared. My team stayed. Rebecca burst out laughing the second the door closed. Hey, what was that? She looked like she'd seen a ghost. That was my brother's fiancée, I said calmly. James's eyebrows shot up. Your brother's? The one getting married? The same one who told me not to come to New Year's Eve because I'd embarrass him in front of her. Rebecca's mouth fell open. You're kidding. He texted me on December 28th. Said she was a corporate lawyer at Davis Polk and she couldn't know about my situation. David, standing by the door, made a strangled sound. Your situation being this? He gestured around the room. Apparently running a multi-billion-dollar company is embarrassing to the family. James leaned back in his chair. So she has no idea who you are. She thought I worked at a failing startup. She felt sorry for me at Thanksgiving. Rebecca was grinning now. This is the best day of my professional life. Through the glass wall of the conference room I could see Amanda in the hallway. She was on her phone pacing. Her free hand was pressed to her forehead. Should we be concerned about the deal? James asked. No, I said. Davis Polk is too professional to let personal drama affect a $840 million transaction. They'll pull her from the presentation if they have to. 5 minutes later, Lawrence Whitfield returned alone. Miss Chin, my apologies. Associate Whitmore is experiencing a personal matter. I'll be handling her portions of the presentation. Of course, I said. I hope everything's all right. His expression suggested he had no idea what was wrong but was deeply annoyed about it. Shall we continue? We reconvened. Amanda didn't return. Patricia Huang took over the IP transfer discussion. The meeting proceeded smoothly. By 1 p.m. we were done. Richard Morrison stood and extended his hand. Miss Chin, you've built something remarkable. I'm proud to see TechFlow become part of it. We'll honor what you've built, I promised. Lawrence gathered his materials. Our firm will have the final documents ready by end of week. Perfect, I said. Thank you for your work on this. As the Davis Polk team filed out, Patricia Huang paused. Miss Chin, I don't know what happened with Associate Whitmore, but I apologize for the disruption. No apology necessary, I said. These things happen. He studied me for a moment. You handled that with remarkable grace. After they left, David closed the door. Your phone has been going insane. I checked. 43 missed calls. 67 texts. All from my family. The messages had started 20 minutes into the meeting. Marcus, call me right now. Marcus, what the hell, Sarah? Marcus, Amanda is freaking out. Sarah, Marcus says there's been some kind of misunderstanding? Marcus, you told Amanda you worked at a startup. Marcus, you let her think you were struggling. Dad, this is very confusing. Can someone explain what's going on? Jenna, did you lie to us? I scrolled through them all. Then I opened the family group chat and typed. Me, I never lied. You never asked. My phone immediately rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. I silenced it and set it face down on my desk. David knocked. Your 2 p.m. with the board is in 10 minutes. I'll be there. And, there's someone in the lobby. Says she's your mother. I closed my eyes. Send her up. Mom appeared in my doorway 5 minutes later. She'd clearly rushed over from wherever she'd been. Her coat was buttoned wrong. Her hair wasn't perfect. She stopped when she saw my office. The view. The size. The Meridian logo on the wall. The framed Fortune magazine cover with my face on it. Sarah, she said quietly. What is this? This is my company, I said. Meridian Technologies. I founded it 6 years ago. 6 years. She sat down slowly in the chair across from my desk. 6 years and you never told us. You never asked what I was doing. You said you worked in tech. At a startup. This is a startup. It's just a successful one. She looked around again, processing. Marcus said Amanda met you. In a boardroom. You were running a meeting. An acquisition meeting. We're buying TechFlow Solutions for $840 million. Davis Polk is representing them. Amanda's firm. Yes. Mom's hands were shaking. She called Marcus in a panic. He said you were the CEO. He thought she was confused. He thought maybe you were someone's assistant and she got mixed up. I'm the CEO, Mom. I've been the CEO since I started this company in my studio apartment with $15,000. $15,000. She trailed off. I don't understand. When Marcus started his consulting job we thought you were struggling. I was building something. But you let us think. At Thanksgiving when Amanda asked what you did. I told her I worked in tech at a startup. That's true. But you didn't tell her you owned it. She didn't ask. I kept my voice level. She assumed I was failing and felt sorry for me. You all did. Mom flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? When I got into MIT, Dad said someone had to do the tech support. When my first company failed, you suggested I get a real job. When Marcus made partner at his firm, you threw him a party. When Meridian closed our Series A, $12 million, Mom, I was 23 years old and you didn't even know it happened. You didn't tell us. Because you'd made it very clear what you thought I was capable of. He sat back wounded. So this is, what? Revenge. No, I said. This is me living my life. Building something I'm proud of. You're the ones who decided I was an embarrassment. I just stopped trying to convince you otherwise. Marcus said you ruined his New Year's Eve. I wasn't at his New Year's Eve. That was the whole point. You know what I mean. Amanda is mortified. She told her whole family that Marcus comes from a family of achievers, and then she walks into a meeting and finds out his sister is. She gestured around helplessly. More successful than she expected? You're being cruel. Am I? I stood up. I have a board meeting in 3 minutes, Mom. You're welcome to stay in Seattle and we can have dinner tonight, but right now I have a company to run. She stood too, gathering her coat. At the door she paused. Your father is very upset. I'm sorry to hear that. We thought we knew you. You never tried to know me, I said quietly. You decided who I was when I was 16 and never updated your assessment. She left without responding. The board meeting ran until 4:30. Strategic planning for Q1, budget approvals, discussion of the TechFlow integration timeline. When I returned to my office, David was waiting with a bottle of scotch and 2 glasses. That bad? I asked. Your family has called 17 more times. Your brother is in the lobby. I poured 2 fingers of scotch. Send him up. Marcus looked different in my office. Smaller somehow. He was wearing his consulting firm's standard uniform. Navy suit, white shirt, red tie. The uniform of someone who worked very hard to look successful. He stared at my office the same way Mom had. Then at me. Jesus Christ, Sarah. Hello, Marcus. You're actually. He couldn't finish sentences. Amanda said you were the CEO. I told her she was wrong. That you worked at some little software company. She sent me your Forbes profile. He held up his phone. My face stared back from the screen. 40 under 40. Net worth estimated at $400 million. He looked up. Is that real? The estimate is low, I said. But close enough. He sat down heavily. Why didn't you tell us? When should I have told you? When you announced your engagement and talked for 45 minutes about Amanda's career. When Dad spent Christmas dinner explaining how consulting firms work. When you texted me not to come to New Year's because I'd embarrass you. I didn't mean. You did mean it, I said. You meant every word. You were embarrassed by me. You didn't want your successful fiancé to know you had a sister who was a failure. I didn't say you were a failure. You said I'd embarrass you. You said Amanda couldn't know about my situation. I picked up my glass. My situation being this. He looked around again. I don't understand why you hid it. I didn't hide anything. I just stopped including you. I took a sip. When I started this company, I worked 100-hour weeks. I slept in my office. I lived on ramen and coffee. And every single family dinner, every phone call, every holiday, you all talked about your achievements while I sat there and smiled. You could have told us what you were working on. I tried. Once. Do you remember? 2 Christmases ago, I mentioned we'd signed our first major client. Dad changed the subject to ask about your promotion. Marcus was quiet. So I stopped trying. I continued. I built this company with people who believed in me. My team. My investors. People who didn't need me to prove I was worth listening to. Amanda is devastated, he said finally. Amanda felt sorry for me. She looked at me like I was a charity case. And you let her. What am I supposed to tell her? That's not my problem, Marcus. He stood up, angry now. You made me look like an idiot. No, I said. You made yourself look like an idiot. You assumed your sister was a failure and built your relationship on that assumption. That's on you. This is going to ruin things with her family. Then you have a choice to make. He stared at me. What choice? Whether you're going to spend your engagement dinner apologizing for having a successful sister, or whether you're going to figure out why you needed me to be unsuccessful in the first place. He left without answering. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Amanda requested a transfer to Davis Polk's DC office. The firm granted it. Lawrence Whitfield sent me a formal apology for the disruption, and a bottle of wine that cost more than a car. The TechFlow acquisition closed without incident. Richard Morrison sent me a handwritten note thanking me for honoring his legacy. Marcus and Amanda postponed their engagement party. The family group chat went silent. Then on January 18th I got a text from Dad. Dad, can we talk? Just you and me. We met at a coffee shop near my apartment. Neutral territory. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. Your mother says I owe you an apology, he started. Do you think you do? He stirred his coffee for a long time. I read the Fortune article. All of it. The whole profile. And you built something extraordinary. He looked up. And I had no idea. I know. The article mentioned you started with $15,000. In your apartment. Studio apartment. 400 square feet. While we were. He trailed off. While I was telling you to get an MBA and find a real job. Yes. He was quiet for a moment. Why didn't you tell us? Because you'd made it very clear you didn't think I could do it. That's not. He stopped. That's fair. That's probably fair. Probably. He sighed. You were always so quiet. So different from Marcus and Jenna. I thought you needed direction. Structure. I thought I was helping. By telling me to aim lower? By trying to protect you from failure. He met my eyes. I was wrong. It was the first time I'd ever heard him say those words. Marcus is having a hard time, he continued. Amanda's having a hard time. Your mother is confused and hurt. Jenna called me crying yesterday because she doesn't understand what happened. What happened is you all decided I was an embarrassment and uninvited me from New Year's Eve. And then you found out I wasn't who you thought I was. We never thought you were an embarrassment. I pulled out my phone and showed him Marcus's text. She can't know about your situation. Dad read it. His jaw tightened. That's not acceptable. But it's honest, I said. That's how you all saw me. The one who didn't fit. The one who'd bring down the energy. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what specifically? He looked surprised by the question. Then thoughtful. For not asking what you were working on. For assuming you needed my advice instead of my support. For not celebrating MIT the way we celebrated Marcus's Princeton acceptance. He paused. For not knowing my own daughter. My throat tightened. The article said you employ 450 people, he continued. That you've created $300 million in value for your investors. That you're pioneering technology that could revolutionize global supply chains. He shook his head. And I thought you needed my help finding an entry-level job. Yes. I'm proud of you, Sarah. I should have said that 6 years ago. I'm saying it now. I took a breath. Thank you. Can we? He hesitated. Is there a way forward? For the family? I don't know, I said honestly. Marcus texted me an apology yesterday. It was 3 sentences long and ended with, "This has been really hard on Amanda." Dad winced. Mom called to ask if I could smooth things over with Amanda's family, I continued. Jenna wants to know if I can get her husband consulting clients. That's not okay. No, it's not. He was quiet for a long moment. What do you need from us? I need you to see me, I said. Not as the disappointing daughter who needs to be managed. Not as the awkward one who doesn't fit in. Not as a resource to be leveraged. Just me. The CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. The person I've always been. You just weren't paying attention. He nodded slowly. That's fair. And you're right. He finished his coffee. I can't speak for Marcus or your mother or Jenna. But I'd like to try. To see you. If you'll let me. What does that look like? Dinner. Once a month. Just us. You tell me about your company, I listen. I learn about your life. What you're building. He paused. I catch up on 6 years of being a terrible father. Despite everything, I smiled. You weren't terrible. I was absent. That's worse. Once a month, I said. But the first time you offer me career advice, I'm out. He laughed. Deal. 3 months later, Marcus and Amanda broke up. I heard it from Jenna, who heard it from Mom, who heard it from Marcus's therapist's receptionist. The family information chain remained absurd. Amanda had apparently told Marcus she couldn't marry someone from a family with such complicated dynamics. Which was a polite way of saying she couldn't get past the humiliation of pitying me for 18 months and then discovering I could buy her father's firm if I wanted to. I didn't want to. I had better things to do. Dad and I had dinner once a month as promised. He listened more than he talked. He asked about my team, my technology, my vision. He learned the difference between Series A and Series C funding. He stopped offering advice. At our 3rd dinner he said, I told my golf buddies about you. About Meridian. Yeah. I showed them the Forbes article. They were impressed. Good. One of them asked why they'd never heard me mention you before. He looked uncomfortable. I didn't have a good answer. What did you say? That I was an idiot who didn't recognize brilliance when it was sitting across the dinner table from me. I reached across and squeezed his hand. You're learning. Mom took longer. We had coffee once. It was awkward. She kept apologizing and then getting defensive about her apologies. We agreed to try again in a few months. Jenna sent me a LinkedIn request and a message asking if Meridian was hiring. I told her we were, but she'd need to apply through our normal channels. She unfriended me on Facebook. Marcus and I didn't speak for 4 months. Then in April he sent me a real apology. No excuses. No, this has been hard on me. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I want to do better. I wrote back, thank you. When you're ready to try, let me know. As for me, I kept building. Meridian acquired TechFlow successfully. We integrated their team, modernized their technology, and expanded into 6 new markets. Our revenue grew 53% year over year. Forbes upgraded my 40 under 40 profile to a full cover feature. The headline, The Quiet Billionaire, How Sarah Chin Built an Empire While Her Family Wasn't Looking. I framed it and put it on my office wall. Not for them. For me. A reminder that the only person who needs to believe in you is you. And that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success so undeniable that the people who dismissed you have to recalibrate their entire understanding of who you are. The morning after the Forbes cover came out, I got a text from Marcus. Marcus, saw the cover. You look good. Me, thanks. Marcus, for what it's worth. I'm glad I was wrong about you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed. Me, I'm glad you're starting to figure that out. Coffee sometime? Marcus, I'd like that. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was a start. And sometimes that's enough. Sarah Chen's story reminds us that the people closest to us don't always see us most clearly. Sometimes we have to build our lives despite their expectations, not because of them. And sometimes, just sometimes, they eventually catch up.